this whole row of books,
Mm-hmm.
rare books. There was a mercantile library down on 47th Street, liquidated all of its rare books, and I didn't find out about it until after the white folks had gone through them, so I had to get what was left. But I think I got 152 books out of there, and this is part of them, rare books.
And they deal with mercantilism?
It deals with, no, it deals with African history. I only took out what was African history. There was all kind of books there, but I was only interested in what dealt with Africa, ancient Africa. So these are some of the rare books that you won't hardly find. All of these books are on Africa. This row of books, and this row of books. I got 2 rows of books on Egypt. Mm-hmm. Everything contains Egypt. Everything else is on Africa.
Mm-hmm.
These are the books that I have read, with the exception of those on the bottom shelf down there. Those are books of different kinds of Bibles.
Mm-hmm.
And here are some more books that I have read, and also some more rare books up here, like some crested stuff. Very rare books. I ran out of space, as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
So you got books all in this closet. Closet full of books. And these cartons, no carton.
Oh, all these cartons are full of books.
Full of books. Each side. Books in boxes.
And all this is primarily just on Africa.
Just on Africa. My books on African American and African American history is downstairs in the basement. I'll show you that before I leave.
All right.
Now here, I have some books. A few books on the floor here. I sent Africa 300 books.
Mm.
And
to the university, it's in Africa?
No, I sent them to high school, some to high school. I sent some to South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent some to Ethiopia, Uganda. And so those 3 countries I sent books to. Oh, I've given many books to Ghana, schools in Ghana, Mali.
Mm-hmm.
I've given books there. I mean, the African libraries have nothing in them.
What does this represent here?
This is, as you can see, I guess they're Confederate soldiers. Represent the old colonial soldiers. That's my wife's stuff. I don't know. She would have.
My. I thought I had some books.
This junk all you see here, that's her stuff. That's on all that's on the burial ground.
All this is on the burial
All
ground?
that's on the burial ground. That's her stuff. All the papers and stuff down there, tapes and stuff. She's got all that on the burial ground. But these books here, a few books here I have. A few books on Malcolm. I thought I had some books here. Oh, the Ku Klux Klan. This are all books on the Ku Klux Klan. Majority of it. Up there. And I have books, as I say, down in the basement that I will show you when we go to the basement. They're on on African American history.
Oh man, this is wonderful. Say that again.
When I want to do research on any kind of a history or something, I come to my own library and look it up. And sometimes I find books I didn't even know I had, you know. And sometimes somebody mentions a book. I say, I wonder if I have that book. And I look, sure enough, I have it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let me, what's the book you have in your?
This book is on European homosexuality.
Turn it around.
In the Greek and Romans. And I was at a book sale. Astra Quasar had shown some slides, I believe, up at Cornell. We was in Cornell, and Astra Quasar showed some slides up there. And this one of the slides he showed. And I said to him, I said, where did you get that? He said, I was in Chicago, and I saw that picture in Chicago, and I snapped it. The very next week, I went to a book sale, and I opened this book up, and there the same picture was. So I said to him, how much you want for that book? They said $25. So I bought it, just for that picture there alone.
But what is the significance of, understanding the homosexuality of the European? How does it affect African people?
I think it for them it's a way of life. It's a part of their life, and as you can see now, what's going on with same-sex marriages. How does it affect African people? It is my contention that Africa had no significant amount of homosexuality in their societies.
Africans had what? No homosexuality.
No. There's such words as transvestite and homosexuality is a European word. They're not African words. They're not in African language. So it's my contention that this was something, a trait that Africans picked up from European. Another book I have, which was in my library. Normally I wouldn't have bought the book. But I was at a library sale, and I saw that the book said female husbands and male wives. And I normally wouldn't have paid the book any attention, but then it said something about this being an African culture, so I bought that book. And these Europeans were doing everything to prove that homosexuality has always been an African trait in an African society, which I disagree with.
All right. Since we have that book, I just would like to deal with it and get that out of the way. What is the bottom line? That you are making in relationship to African culture, its significance, the impact of Eurocentric culture, and how it's deviant and what?
Mainly, it's a trait of Greek and Romans, as my understanding. Now there may be others too, but I think what happened in Iraq with the torture of these prisoners All of that is a part of their culture. I mean, it's part of their demeanor. You could even put what was the young man in Brooklyn that they assaulted with a broomstick?
Oh yeah, I know you're talking
What's his name?
Louima, Abner.
Abner Louima. I mean, only a mind that was devious and had that kind of a devious act in their mind would even think of performing that kind of act on another person. An normal person like me, see, I would never thought of like that. If I wanted to torture somebody, if I wanted to hurt somebody, that would not be one of my methods.
Well, since we're on that subject and we're dealing with morality and values, let's look at Africa and its moral code, its value system, because Africa is a place where people wore very little clothing. And you see today on television where they're always projecting African Americans, males as rapists and deviant behavior personalities. Historically, in Africa, where the body was not looked at as a sex object, perhaps you would begin to juxtapose this counter-culture and its impact on Africa. But first you need to deal with how Africans saw their morality, their sexuality, and their relationship with male-female.
It is my contention that Africans did not have that in their society. And it was introduced to them by Europeans. Now it has become, I wouldn't say it is great in African society as it is in European society, but the effect that it had on Africa and African people was something transformed from Europeans taught to African people.
Has it had a negative impact, and if so, what is the impact?
The negative impact that it has had is that it demoralizes African morality, morals.
Yeah.
It demoralizes that, and it is something that we have to try to deal with and put back in African society. You mentioned something about, in some cases, at least European writers start and show you African people that wore no clothing, or apparently in some African societies, females never covered their breasts. It was nothing. Mm-hmm. Even males, at least I've seen pictures of where Europeans took, and I don't know if this was staged or what, but where they took of African males, nobody wore clothes. So my research began to take me back to the beginning of man, the beginning of mankind, and how the Creator provided everybody and everything with some kind of protection for themselves. Mm-hmm. People weren't born with clothes on.
That's correct.
Animals have hair. Birds and fowl have feathers to keep their bodies warm. At one time, I don't know if clothes was invented or what, but what were people wearing then before that happened? Anyway, in a climate such as Africa, a tropical climate where you needed very little clothing, it was not necessary to to have a clothing, that much clothing on. It is strange that the European portray African women with no clothing, and they made a big deal out of Janet Jackson showing just a 1 second clip of her breast. Yet they parade their women around daily with almost nothing on. And if they don't show you anything else on TV, they'll show you the rear end of a European woman with nothing on, practically. So that is a part of their demeanor that they promote. Unfortunately, that has found its way into our culture now. Our desire to be like these corporate women, that these corporate men having corporate women appear before them. He appears with a tie, a suit, and three-piece suit, and she appears naked with almost nothing. That's a contradiction. And it is something that we're lusting after. I think our women are trying to pattern themselves after that, most especially those that are in the TV sports world, the newscaster, all these people appearing on TV, just ordinary people, not performers, but these ordinary people appearing there, accompanying after these European women, the way the European has his woman dressed. They're trying to dress like that as well, and possible they have to do that in order to keep their jobs.
Right. Brother Dixs, I'd like to give you this opportunity now to begin to talk about what you would like to say at this conference in Ethiopia. So I want to give you ample time and to speak with our brothers and sisters at the conference in Ethiopia.
Well, I would say, Hotel brothers and sisters, that it is with deep regret that I am not there in person with you. The significance of this conference, Pan-African conference, being at the source of the Nile. And so certainly it is being held on holy ground. It is beginning, we believe, in what historians and archaeologists have determined to be the creation of man, and where man began. Not in Asia someplace, but there in that holy ground where everything is correct, the ingredients is correct for the creation of not only man but anything, all kind of animals and plants.
Are you saying everything in Africa is the womb of all?
Of course. I mean, the sun is the source of all energy. Water is the source of all life. And you cannot survive or cannot have a creation without those two things, along with matter and air. Those are the four ingredients that is necessary for anything to survive. It is your automobile, for example, can't run without those four ingredients. So they are present in that air and had to be there, not some place where God, in the desert, where God took some clay and sand and made a man out of Adam and then blew in his nose for nothing. They didn't have a significant amount of water in that desert. So it had to have been here. And I think that Europeans probably know this, but they don't want to admit it. But that's the significance of the conference in itself. What is so important of the conference that is being held there now? It is a conference. I'm not sure if it is the first conference, but it is a conference being held to call all African people together from wherever we are, whether the Caribbeans, South America, Central America, Pacific, Canada, the United States, and etc., and those on the continent, call us all together for the purpose of unity, of uniting with one another, and to pool our brains and our resources, I hope, together to combat and find out where are we going in the 21st century. And if we look at currently at world problems, or world peoples of the world, we hear a lot of talk about Europeans, and then mainly the United States, is saying they have these weapons that are shock and awe, meaning that they have superior weapons. And it is a long story that we need to understand of Europeans and what his goal, his quest are of these weapons. Nobody supposed is allowed to have these weapons but Europeans. That means all of the European countries, Israel, and South Africa, when it was under the apartheid system, was allowed to have these weapons. Meaning that they are keeping the power and the ability to keep the power in their hands lied with white folks and white supremacy. That's the main thing. But what I would like to go a little further back and see if we can trace this. I traced it down. Runoka Rashidi asked me to say, write a book on what were we doing? How did we let Europeans put us in this condition? She said, I need to write a book on that. Pat Freeman, who's a radio host in Buffalo, New York, said to me pretty much the very same thing. How did we allow them to do that? So I did some research on how we allowed them and what they did to put us there.
That's an interesting subject. Now, I would love for you to discuss that.
First of all, they had a method, a program, a plan on how to put us there. Something we don't have. And something that we're just now, 500 years later, trying to come up with, I hope, from this conference, that we'll come up with a plan just to protest, as we have been doing years in, years out, protesting and trying to get them to be human is not working. What we have to do is figure out where we are going here. Now, let me get back to what the people are doing. Europeans have their weapons of shock and awe. We cannot compete with them. There's no need for us trying to assemble an army, trying to assemble enough weapons to compete with them in the weaponry of wars. There's no such thing. We still have spears and they got guns. So the Arabs, what we see now, the Iraqi people are doing, they're fighting them the best they can. And they're fighting them with guerrilla war. That's their method. The Palestinians have chosen to use suicidal bombings. That's the only thing they could come up with. I mean, they were throwing rocks and bottles, and that was nothing against machine guns. And so they chose the only other thing they could do is suicide bombing. Now that takes sacrifice. That takes commitment, and you have to have those things. You in a war, you fighting survival, and that means you're willing to sacrifice your life. I'm not suggesting that we do that, but I am suggesting we have to come up with a plan. And to me, that plan is unity as the first step of that plan of African people. Is unity. Has to be that. Again, it's going to take commitment, honesty, and sacrifice. That's what all of us has to take an oath, so to speak, to ourselves for that. This was the significance of the conference of all these African people from all over the world assembling here now to put that in effect.
Now, I don't want to get too far away from the original question, and that is what everybody is asking you to write on. How did the Europeans
put us in this position?
Yes.
Well, my research shows me that Europeans have been studying us, and I got books to prove it. One of the most important books in my life that I've read is this little book here, right here.
What's the name of it?
It's called The Golden Stool by Edwin W. Smith. Edwin W. Smith was a European born in South Africa. But he knew he was a European. He knew he was not an African. What they did to put us in this position was study us and compare us. They've been doing, and they're still doing that today, studying us and comparing us with one another. And this, according to this book, they held their conference in the last quarter of the 19th century. And they said the best way they could control us as a people was to destroy our institutions and destroy our way of life and make us Africans. We would not be an African, would not be a European, but something in between. But whatever we were, we would be there to serve Europeans. That was their goal. Now, this is what they said they were going to do with us. In other words, they created a Negro. That's what they were doing. How did they do that? They said that they would, best way to do it was saturate Africa with missionaries. These are their books. I didn't write them. Saturate Africa with missionaries. They even went so far as to determine what countries could supply and how many missionaries they could supply. For example, the United States would supply 3,000 missionaries. England would supply 3,000. France, 2,500. Belgium, 2,500. All of them made some contribution in supplying these missionaries for the purpose of capturing and colonizing the African mind. That was their purpose. And that is what they did. And it is my opinion that this was more detrimental to us than the Atlantic slave trade. It was more detrimental to us because we're still suffering from that.
Now, how did they go about this diabolical plan? And what was the missionaries' modus operandi? How did they go about setting it up and executing it?
Well, the first thing they did was introduce a new God. Africans had a terracotta doll, a stone sculpture or something, and that they worship. And and it's not quite fair to say the worship, but they made that their symbol of God. It's pretty much like if you study African history, it's pretty much like Egypt. Egypt used these animals' heads and things as the symbol of God. So the Central Africa, south of the equator, was doing the same thing. What the Europeans did came down, then the first thing they did was destroy Africa through lies that we had no religion, had no soul. And they brought us a new God, they said. Get rid of your old gods. And there are some pictures showing, throw them in the river, burn them up, and gave you a picture of a blonde, blue-eyed Jesus. This is your God. And of course the picture looks like them. Michelangelo, so it's only been going, Michelangelo drew the picture in 1509. So this picture of Jesus Christ has only been around about 500 years, a little more now.
But what was it about this new religion that appealed to the African in such a magnetic way that he would forego, or did he forego, the traditional system?
I think that we as African are a very spiritual people. A person who is willing to listen to all angles and all sides. And when they, according to what I have, my research shows with griots that I've interviewed, when they were introduced to this new God, they was not sure. This could be something to this. The white man came in there and he looked like them. They had never seen a white man before. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he came in there, some of them used it with spitting fire.
Talking about the gun.
Yeah. Something they were not used to. So they said, well, maybe this man is a God. And even now you find Africans afraid to let go of that. So therefore they worship Christianity and their traditional religions. Mm. You go to a funeral sometimes, and they will do the funeral in a Christian funeral, and then afterwards they'll do it in a traditional African language. So they don't want to miss out on that might not be real. So therefore they subscribe to that. That was the main thing that captured their minds.
Brother Dixs, can you give us some, Nana, can you give us some insight to the way Africans saw the world and their relationship as a people with that world? And what was their morality and their values?
I am still I'm still doing research on that. I've never researched that thoroughly as I would like to have. It's most unfortunate that I didn't get into, was not able to financially to do this until I become in my latter years. Mm-hmm. But from my research and interviewing, I've interviewed many griots. Mm-hmm. I've interviewed many different people in Africa. Mm-hmm. And anxious at pull themselves together and different African groups have a something that I have not been able. I'm rambling here because I'm trying to find words for it. But they have something that we are not privy to. Those of us here, that they have in like a secret society that we are not privy to, and they were able to advance themselves in astronomy and like the Dogon people, and the Dogon people were not the main people, the main resources in Africa. There are other people there. It's even more have an even more significance of their religion than the Dogon people. And now you ask me about their relationship with the world. Their relationship, as they saw it, is as a part of the world, a part of the nature. For example, the Dogon people and others might plant a crop and draw their crops in the manner of the universe. And they figured also that your body is built on that same premise. So therefore, the Africans, that's why they built their houses, Europeans call them huts, round. Because that is a part of the universe and how the universe operates. Nature doesn't make anything square, nothing. Your body is round, your arms are round, your head is round, all your holes are round, your penis is round, the woman's vagina is round, so everything is round. So that is the part of the universe that they saw themselves a part of. Now, they can become so committed to that they tell me, I am told, that they cannot be bitten by an animal, a snake, a lion. But then when you get to that stage, you are a purist. And I'm sure you've heard that some Africans would say that no bullet could penetrate them.
I've heard that.
Well, there's only few people that I understand ever achieved that status. But they tell me it can be done. Also, they tell me when such a people do achieve that status, that when they die, their body remains intact and does not rot. Remain intact. And it sort of made me think. I mean, for shortly after I was told by the Africans, they had built up Medford Evers, who had been buried there for 20 years or more.
That's correct.
And the body was intact.
And looked the same as
and looked
it
the
did.
same,
So
So there must be something to it. Now the Africans told me, so they could show me people like that. So that was the traditional thing that we had. You asked about. Bank accounts, big Cadillac cars don't mean anything to them. People like that. But these religions, Christianity and Islam, have corrupted our minds.
I want to ask you about two things. I want to ask you about Islam, but before I go to Islam, if you want to tie it in with the first question I asked you, it's perfectly all right. But when the Europeans came to Africa to study Africa, men like Stanley and Livingstone, what are some of the things that they wrote in relationship to how they saw Africa's humanity, how they themselves were treated by the Africans, which gives us a real insight to how Africans really were?
I've read many of their books. Stanley and people of his ilk never wrote anything good about Africa. And in fact, what they did, they wrote to demoralize Africa. Pretty much the same thing as they are doing now with Robert Mugabe, Saddam Hussein, and those type of people, is demoralize them, tear them down, make demons out of them, tell lies about them. Mugabe is murdering his own people. And Mugabe never murdered his own people. You know that.
That's correct.
But they put these lies out there, they float them out there, and after a while, people just recite them as if it's true. Mm-hmm. So that's what they did to demoralize us as a people, to tear us down. Then they could put in there whatever they want about you.
The Arabs. Who are they?
You know?
The Arabs.
The Arabs.
The Arabs. Islam. Who are the Arabs? And what impact and role have they played in Africa that undermined African civilization and made it that much more vulnerable for European enslavement of Africans?
Yeah, well you know, Arab was enslaved not long before Europeans came there. When Europeans were still in the Dark Ages, after Alexander and the Romans invaded Africa, and when the fall of the Roman Empire, Europe went into almost 1,000 years of darkness. So it was Europe in the darkness, not Africa. The impact that they had when they came out was that they didn't know that all these things existed out there, such as tropical fruits.
Yes, right.
That you could just walk around and pick fruits off the ground and eat, almost live that way. So they said that Africans, by them having accessible to these fruits and stuff, and didn't have to work hard, didn't have to use his brain. So his brain did not enlarge as a European who had to do some thinking on how he's going to survive. All these kind of lies and innuendos that Europeans created about us in their study helped demoralize us as a people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the Arab?
The Arabs, and I tried to do some research on where they come from. And as far as I can see, the Arabs was in Africa long before Islam was created. Islam came into being in 622 by Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad. But the Arabs, especially in Yemen, crossing over the Red Sea there was some association with them. But as near as I can find out, there was no wholesale enslaving going on at that time.
With the Arabs.
Right. This began mainly when they invaded Africa in 640. That's when the wholesale of enslaving Africans began. One thing they did in order to promote Islam was the question of sacrifice. Africans at that time were sacrificing a human being. That was the reality of sacrifice years ago. I think all people that I could read perhaps did that. I don't know about Europeans, but all people did that. But it was the sacrifice was not in a cannibalistic thing as Europeans would have us believe. It was not that. So Europeans said to, Arabs said to the Africans, you don't have to sacrifice yourself anymore. So God gave you an animal to sacrifice. Now, they were referring to Abraham, and Abraham was going to sacrifice his son. And I have a picture of a Bible showing Abraham ready to sacrifice, and the angel grabbed his arm and stopped it. And then the miraculous of the ram that got his horns caught in the bush, and God gave them that. They used that for sacrifice, to say to them, you don't have to sacrifice. And it had an impact on the Africans. And it sold them Islam. And that's why when you have some African men, they're staunch, it's Muslim people. So Arabs, in their enslavement of us, were some treacherous people. Arabs caught little boys, especially along the North Africa there. They came down into the interior of Africa and brought with them not prunes, the other fruit. They're very sweet. From North Africa, grows in North Africa. It brought with them, so they enticed dates. And so they gave these little boys and led them into capture, so they could capture them with these dates. What they did was made units out of them. Units is an Arab tradition. It's not African. Africans had there was no use for Africans to have a unit. Units served the sole purpose of it to guard the harem. So they desect them so he would not compete with the master. So African culture never subscribed to harems. We had polygamy, but we didn't have harems, and there was nothing there. So there was no need for units. And so this is what these Arabs did to African boys, those that they didn't make into soldiers and into servants and things like that. And of course, many Africans died
thousands upon thousands.
Thousands.
They
Yes.
say that out of every, I think, 12 attempts to make a unit that is cutting off the penis of a young boy, only one survived.
Yes. Yeah, that's. I guess that's about accurate, and then it might have been even higher than that in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we've gotten away from the purpose of the conference.
Mm-hmm.
Let us get back to the conference
All right.
and why we should unite in the conference.
Well, let's talk about it.
I pointed out all people have some mechanism of fighting their power structure, and that's what we have to come up with. We need to unite and commit ourselves to that struggle. Reparations are good, maybe, but that's big in them to give us something. We've been, what they holding now, the 14th or 15th conference on reparation, are big in the United States. They're not going to give them to us. They're not doing, but we don't have to beg them. Well, we need to just tell them, if we unite, that we're taking Africa back. We need to set a date for that. After September 15th, with Africa taken back, all other people in Africa will have to renegotiate their contracts. Because if they have land, it's illegal in the first place. And we're taking it back. So if you want to stay there and remain there and operate a business, you have to renegotiate your contract. Otherwise, you can get the hell out. That's what we need to tell them. And we can only do that if we unite.
Yes.
Now, there'll be consequences, I'm sure. And I'm sure they will threaten us. I'm sure that they will do everything to divide and conquer us. And in some degree, I'm sure they will be successful. But the main thrust is that we must commit ourselves to that and stick to that. And then set up governments in the traditional African way of setting up governments. They know how to do it. And that would prevent any African leaders from establishing huge bank accounts in Switzerland or some other place.
Right.
That's what we have to do. We can do that, but I don't think that we realize the seriousness of the plight we're in. And I want to get back to that. I mentioned something about it started way back in the first part of the 20th century.
What started back in the first part of the 20th century? Our unity? Our
No,
vision?
no. European planning
Oh,
to conquer the world.
okay. All right.
You can trace it back further than that. You could trace it all the way back to Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and all them characters. You could trace it back that far if you want to. But the main thrust, where they started coming up as a people, began, I believe it was 1903, where they held a conference called the Eugenic Conference.
Yes.
Eugenic means depopulation. Now, get this: who were the promoters of this eugenic movement? The first eugenic conference held in New York was held at New York Public Museum in 1932. Who called it? Averell Harriman and his mother and sister who was a liberal and supposed to have been a friend of African people, we thought. What was the governor of New York State 3 times, I believe it was? He was the promoter of it. Averill Harriman owned a ship line, transported Nazis from Germany to New York for that conference. One of the guys who was head of had a whole float on Eugenius in I believe it was Hamburg, Germany. They brought them here for this conference. Who was he connected with? George Bush's grandfather.
The Kellogg's, the owner of Kellogg's. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
They were connected with the Rockefellers. Mm-hmm. Some more liberals. So these people were pushing to eliminate us from the planet for a long time, slowly. Mm-hmm. That really didn't pick up momentum until in the 50s. Came about because of the Supreme Court's decision of Brown versus the education thing. That decision of the Supreme Court, followed by the Alabama bus boycott. And that the motivation that produced among African people, black people, for that bus boycott. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is when then the Europeans began to organize themselves into a right-wing group. Mm-hmm. 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 Reaching its climax in 1964 by Barry Goldwater and the birth of the Conservative Party. Mm-hmm. The Conservative Party really means, now they call them Conservative and Republican, but it used to be like a dirty word to be conservative, but no more, man, they clean it up and legitimize it. Mm-hmm. 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 It's all right now to be a conservative. It's racist, that's what it is, white supremacy. Mm-hmm. They were the people that projected this to the degree that you see where now the right-wing George Bush and company will just openly say it's all right for them to kill a foreign leader. In fact, they should kill her. You know what I mean? They used to didn't say that in those days. Mm-hmm. But that's where the movement came out of them doing. And these people have done some devious things. You have no idea. It is my contention that all of them are involved in this when they're in Africa.
AIDS.
The Save the Children Foundation, mm-hmm. The Catholic Church, and the other churches too. Well, I can't just sing a lot of Catholic. The CIA, all of them are armed of the CIA, and they're all in Africa to do that. What are they doing? How are they following through on that? Mm-hmm. Somehow, and there are a few people who contradict that, but AIDS has to be connected with it some way or another.
Yes. Yes.
It just didn't happen now. There are a few people saying there really no such thing as AIDS. It's just a starvation of our people in their country. Their immune system is low, and they just contact diseases because the immune system is low for lack of hunger. Whatever it is orchestrated by Europeans, and we are the one that's dying from it. That is how it is affecting us as a people, and why we must unite now if we want to survive. I was in Botswana. I went to Botswana University. It has a European woman there from America, and the vice chancellor. And she said that a person are being affected by the AIDS virus in Africa every 6 seconds. A person is being affected by the AIDS virus. And if it's that rate, I don't necessarily believe it is affecting us as much as they would have us believe, but it is something there that is affecting us, and it is intended to eliminate us as a people. Yes. We have to understand. I think we started talking about his goal was to control the world, control
the land,
the resources,
control the markets.
Well, they got all of that already. They have it. So you would say, what more do they want? But they want more. So they are projecting satellites into outer space. So they say. They have satellites at 22,500 miles in space that is capable of reading a postage stamp or an automobile license plate. Now, that is not enough for them. They're not spending all them billions of dollars to go up there and read postage stamps and license plates. They're not doing that for that. They're not doing it for these astronauts to take a spacewalk. It has to be something else behind that. So, what is behind it? You see, the white man really has not figured out what is his own origin, or he knows his origin and do not want to accept it and keep trying to search for something else. Like, for example, they tried to connect themselves with Atlantis, a planet called Atlantis, very deep under the Atlantic Ocean. And that was their culture, and their culture would have been more superior to Egypt's, but it got sunken there. I saw a film on China. In fact, I have that film. They said that they found some ancient Chinese people there, and or ancient people in China, but they were blonde and blue-eyed people. So meaning Europeans were there before the Chinese. That could be their origin. None of these things have proven to be their origin. So now they are going to Mars, looking for a superior European white man, came down here and planted them because they perhaps did something and they threw them out, put them on Earth, or they put them down here to civilize. All kind of lies like that they're saying that they put these people here for. But anyway, they were these people who built the pyramids. And they're going up there trying to find some people on Mars. And I think now they say they have some traces of some indication that they have found some water there. So these people must be there. So that is what they're doing. So they are constantly trying to find their origin. In the meantime, eliminate us as a people from the face of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
That is their agenda. Their agenda is not oil in Iraq. That is not their agenda. Their agenda is the control by white folks.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, when Saddam Hussein, when the first war with George Bush Sr., with Saddam Hussein was they dropped a bomb every minute round the clock for 40 days. And their message was, don't you dare ever mess with the great white man again.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to send that message to Korea, North Korea, Iran, all these people, Gaddafi. Don't you dare mess with us. The actors of evil. Send that message. Rumsfeld boasted. We can bring them on. We can take them all. Didn't take 2, 3 of them at the same time. That's when they thought they could run into Iraq and wipe them off the face of the map, and the people will come out loving them, saying, oh, we're glad you did this to us. Thank you. What they thought what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. But they're in a quagmire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're in a quagmire. This book, as I mentioned before, a book that every African alive should read this book.
What's the name of it?
It's called Death in the Air, Globalism, Terrorism, and Toxic Warfare by Leonard G. Horowitz.
Mm-hmm.
DMD-MA-MPH. I don't know what all them titles mean. It means that you should think he's a great white man. But anyway, based on what they say, their own writings, and I will read to you what they are saying. Human eugenics program.
No, start again.
The
Go ahead.
Human eugenics program. Yeah. They wrote a Zbigniew Brzezinski, who was, to show you there's no difference in all these people, who held the same position that Condoleezza Rice holds now, under Jimmy Carter, the great born-again Christian, who's going all the way around the world now, including Haiti, bringing democracy to these people. Jimmy Carter. Zbigniew Brzezinski drew up a plan that would deal with African people. I'll read it to you. Recommendations in the range of United States interest to Black Africa. Recommendation arranged without intent to imply priority. All. 1. Specific steps should be taken with the help of appropriate government agencies to inhibit coordinating activity of the black movement in the United States. Number 2. The clandestine operation should be launched by the CIA to generate mistrust and hostility in America and world opinion against joint activity of the two forces, and to cause division among black Africans, radical national groups, and their leaders. These people are planning for us. That's what they have planned for. They're talking about how they could do it. 3. The United States embassies And the United States embassies are nothing but a haven for the CIA in Africa. It is saturated with them. United States embassies to black African countries, especially interests in Southern Africa, must be highly circumspect in view of the activity of remain political circles and influential individuals opposing the objectives and methods of U.S. policy towards South Africa. It must be kept in mind that the failure of U.S. strategy in South Africa would adversely affect American standing throughout the world. In addition, this would mean a significant diminution of U.S. influence in Africa and the emergence of new difficulties in our internal situation due to worsened economic prospects. Fourth, the FBI should mount surveillance operation against black African representatives and collect sensitive information on those, especially at the UN, who oppose U.S. policy towards South Africa. The information should include facts on their links with the leaders of the black movement in the United States, thus making possible at least partial neutralization of the adverse effects of their activity. As shown in recommendation Brzezinski advanced to deal with the above concerns, and a black solution included trend toward American black movement that considerable changes in the black movement and occurred for the benefit of the U.S. national security. So you see, these people were and is planning against us, mapping strategies against us, and we don't even know it.
That's true.
The purpose of this was to never let again an African American attain the status of a Martin Luther King.
That's what it says.
Yeah. So that, meaning that he could gather the support of too many African people. So they set out to destroy African leaders. This book, and there are others, tells you how they are preparing to control the weather. In fact, they say they no longer control the weather, but they own the weather. This means that if you control the weather, you can make it rain when you want it to rain. But if you own the weather, you can make it rain where you want it to rain. So that means then that if they wanted to put an impact on Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe and just form a drought, that they could do it.
How are they doing this?
They're doing research and studying on how they can do it. They haven't perfected it yet, but they're doing it. And they didn't just start it. They've been doing it. Now, these if you recall, since about 1999, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, we had some huge fires in the West, forest fires.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't just happen. They were practicing how to produce lightning stones. Mm-hmm. And these stones ignited those fires. I suspect, I don't know, it could be a reaction. Just last week we had a hundred tornadoes in one night. Now, I don't know that. Maybe this is an after effect of those storms they were trying to create. Or maybe they're creating a tornado, who knows? Mm-hmm. But they're trying to do that. Mm-hmm. So it is important for us to unite, because I see this as the only opportunity we have for survival.
Without unity.
Without unity, we're dead.
Mm-hmm. Is there any other remarks you would like to make for the conference?
Yes, I would like to urge my brothers and sisters. First of all, I regret that I'm not there, but due to my wife's health, I had to make a decision on whether I should go or not. I had already purchased my ticket just last week from Ethiopian Airlines, and had to call up and cancel it. I had to cancel it because of her continuous deterioration of her health. So I would like to say to the brothers and sisters there, I hope that you will consider the proposals I have put on the table through my papers that I have sent in already, and other proposals that I have in mind of making. But we got to go beyond talking Pan-African. Mm-hmm. We got to go beyond wearing African clothing, kente clothing, and even changing our name to Africa. We got to go beyond that. We have to have a commitment to Africa and to African people. So I would say to my brothers and sisters, please be serious, because Africa is on the verge of being completely confiscated by Europeans, and it might be already too late for us.
We walked down the hallway to her kitchen.
Coleman, don't be upset.
She told me that. She said she's gonna be walking.
Cut
She's
into
gonna be
it.
walking. She said, "What's around the table?"
We have a fan.
There you go. Her.
Karen, you got a flash on it?
Yeah, but should I use a flash? It's kind of stark.
You may have to, because it's not enough light. Flash.
Yeah, they talk, man.
You got enough available light?
I'll make do.
No, she's not coming.
He's out of town this afternoon. But what we're going to do is let them know
I
what
think
you
Charlie
have to
did
say,
say.
and then we'll let them make their statement. Okay? They'll make a statement.
Sister Dixs, you had asked me to pull together a press conference, and I'm obedient to you. I've always been. So they are here, and you may say to them whatever you want to say, but we are all listening at what you have to say.
Okay.
Anytime you want to tell them anything, you can go ahead. And there is Karen Carrillo and her boy. Naya is going to do a story on you anyway. She was trying to make it, she couldn't. Reverend Daughtry I talked to, Charles told me he was already here, and Patterson, that's the only person I couldn't, that you asked for that I couldn't get a hold of. But everybody else has responded. So,
And Minister Kevin Muhammad, we called him
yeah.
this morning, left a message on his machine, and we left his phone number up here and told him we'd be up here at 4 o'clock to do the press conference. If he was available, he would get back to us. But we didn't hear anything from him.
So what is your statement?
Sister Dixs, what did you want to tell everybody? What did you want to say to everybody?
Well, I would like to say to all of the African family to stay strong, fight. Don't allow anybody to separate us. And our whole goal is one, and that is we shall overcome. We should not let any other race, any other nation, any other people dictate our beliefs, especially the Europeans. The Europeans has controlled us. Well, maybe I should phrase that a little different. We have allowed the Europeans to control us, which shouldn't have happened. But for some reason, we have detoured and have felt that they was more powerful than we were. And for that particular reason, whatever the European wanted, we have taken our backs and let them come up front. And I think it's, as my father would say, it's high time. Those are his words. It's high time that we stop that and push forward and feel that we are as powerful, that we are as fortified. We can do whatever we will, as Brother Marcus Garvey said, but what do we will? And that question has never been answered. What do we will? So when we realize that what we will be done, it will be done. I want to thank you.
What would you have done us to make sure happens with the African burial ground?
Well, I want to get the Europeans out. I want it to be controlled, ruled, set aside. And you know, that land down there have still not been European land. That's our land. And what the Europeans have done, they have come and taken the land. They have no deeds to that land down there. When I spoke to Drama, I spoke to, what's the other little quaint name?
Perry?
I don't know what his name is.
Perry? No,
Huh?
the glassy-eyed one.
Rachel?
No.
Richard, yeah. Richard. And they admitted that they don't have a deed. They got that land through, I think he said, abandonment, didn't he?
Well, it was marshland. Maddox said it was marshland, and that's where they drove.
And they came in and took it. And I think what we should do at this point now is get a deed to it, reclaim it, and say never again will you say the land belongs to you. Okay.
Now, in terms of GSA desiring to build something on that, on the burial ground itself, what do you say about that?
No, nothing built on that ground by GSA. No. And see, GSA did not consult with us when they put the burial sites up on this end. Those burial sites were supposed to have been scattered, am I right?
That's correct.
Were supposed to have been scattered
That was the
on the land, not up there. Because see, with the burial sites being on is that the southeast or southwest coast?
Yes.
That means they can build whatever they want on the other parts of the land. Never supposed to be in. We don't want it.
So we want that burial site to remain a cemetery. Is that what you're saying?
Well, where have you seen any other cemetery that they have something is built there? There's no other place.
Now I understand you and Ollie had brought up that parking lot was vacant at the last meeting. What is your feelings about that parking lot on the other side of the African burial ground?
for a museum.
Huh?
For a museum, the parking lot that Sister Holly had brought up at the last meeting. That parking lot there, we want a museum there. What do you think about having a museum there?
One of the ones I suggested, Sister Dixs, is the red brick building, that red brick building owned by the city, for them to give it to us for our museum. And the parking lot,
Oh,
they
yes,
can put
yes.
their exterior
Yes.
memorial on that
Yes,
site.
I see what
You understand? And we can claim that land under eminent domain.
yeah, okay.
You understand? Because it was paid for by our ancestors already. It's paid for. It's
Yeah,
our
you're
land.
right.
So they don't have to force this thing on us that we don't want.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I just wanted
I
to
see. I don't hear very well, so something I may not hear. As I told my co-chair that she will hear. So we do not want them. In fact, we don't want them dictating.
Thank you.
that's critical.
So that's the way we want it.
That the African community, as represented by its descending committee, should dictate what happens. Is there anything else you want?
And what we don't want again, we don't want these Johnny-come-latelys. You know, the IOs and the whoever it is, to come lately and decide that they have a big voice in it when they was not a part of it in the beginning. You see, they didn't come into this until after their bones had been taken to Howard, ready to bring back to New York, ready for, they say, reburial. So what we want is them to butt out and stay out. Okay.
Thank you, Sister Dixs. I got it.
You got that beautiful smile.
Oh, I got that beautiful smile. That is a beautiful smile. Yeah. You look good. You look
Well,
beautiful.
I feel
Absolutely.
pretty good. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay.
Have two double hit,
So
two approaches.
I would like to say, the last word be ours. And for the last word to be ours, I would like to say any time, any place, anywhere that anything pertaining to the burial ground be done with Father McLean, Reverend Daltrey, Brother Charles Barron, and Clifton Brown. And we who...
How about Juanita?
And Juanita, oh yes. She's a permanent figure in there. Who else? Did I leave out anybody?
Minister Kevin Muhammad. I don't know
Well,
if you meant to name him or not.
he has not participated as fully as I think he should have. But I wouldn't say no, but the people that
Nana, your husband?
oh yeah,
Yeah, but I haven't been.
yeah.
I was not involved in the burial ground that much.
Yeah.
Look her up.
We want
That's involved.
these particular people, down to the last one, to be considered the forerunners of the African burial ground. And they wouldn't have the audacity to do anything without these people. And that's Clemson Brown, Reverend Daltrey, Reverend Charles Barron, your Sullivan, Nana Hale Dixs, and Juanita.
And Ollie McLean.
Did I leave out anybody?
Ollie.
Is that it? Well, that's the way we want it. Okay? Usually use the word down south. When I kick the bucket, this is the way. Hi, this is my niece, my sister's daughter, Madeline McCray.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
It's sensational. And really helping. And really, one not only she had, I mean, one needed the rest of them. Where's,
So she can see you. Come on, sister.
where are you now?
Right here.
There she is.
Sorry, I was making you dinner.
Yeah. That's what my mother.
That's
And I don't know
California.
where that have surrounded me. There are others I may not have mentioned, but they were here, and they know they were here. So I'm just showing a few of the whole. Okay.
I'm impressed.
all right.
I am thoroughly impressed
I tell
on every level.
you, a real icon in our community.
Seriously.
And still strong.
These
Yes.
I, seriously, these people were going to Africa, adopting cities of orphans before Oprah made it a fad. You know, telling us about it before it was a fad. And people have to know about it.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, I've